All right, the next definition is recall. Okay, so progressives wanted a series of reforms. Now, the word reform down here, we'll talk about it later, but basically it means to change the law to make things better. So, recall is a special election held to remove a corrupt official from office before their election ends. So, let's say that everybody in Church Point just hates the mayor. Okay. By the way, I think Mayor Spanky's a good mayor. But so anyway, let's say everybody hates the mayor. The mayor has done something illegal. Okay, and I'm not talking about Spanky. He didn't do anything illegal. So we could actually get together, sign a petition, and recall the mayor, which means that he gets kicked out of office before his term is up. And then you would have a special election after that to determine who the new mayor is. That's one of the reforms that the progressives put in place, because they were tired of these corrupt politicians that were in the pocket of the robber barons having to serve out full terms. I mean, a senator's term is 6 years. Can you imagine if you find out he's a crook in the first year? Now you got 5 more years of this guy, okay? So, direct primary. The people choose candidates instead of party bosses. Okay, so the way things used to work, you'll realize that elections is one party versus another usually. Okay, usually Democrat versus Republican. Well, how do you choose which Democrat goes against which Republican? Because there might be 50 Republicans that want that spot and 50 Democrats on the other side that want that spot. Well, they have a competition beforehand. That's called a primary. It's kind of like a basketball bracket, you know. This team goes against this team, that kind of thing. There's an election before the election. Well, what was going on in the Constitution of the United States, it said that the state legislatures, okay, so the state version of Congress was allowed to pick the new candidate for governor, okay, or for president, or, you know, for going up the chain. Well, what was going on is that the guys in charge of the country, the real people in charge of the country, the robber barons, were paying off all of the state legislators in the country, almost. And their people, the robber barons' people, were being picked as the candidates without the people themselves of America determining who they were going to vote for. So we had an amendment to the Constitution, which is the 17th Amendment, that says that you have the direct election of U.S. senators. But this one is kind of like the people themselves get to vote on their candidate during the primary. And then you go to the general election where the two candidates face off against each other. All right, the ghost is back. Hold on, you know.
The ghost?
Yeah, he likes to mess with my computer. All right, the next definition is filibuster, a really weird word. Shutting down debate in Congress through excessive talking. Okay, so Congress gets to vote on bills, but before they vote on bills, they have to discuss the bills. Well, they can't vote for the bill unless they have a vote to vote for the bill. In other words, they have to have a vote that says it's time to vote. So let's say that you're a Democrat and you don't want the Republicans to pass a certain bill. You will simply use the House rules or the Senate rules in order to filibuster. Okay? So a lot of these rules, there's different times with different rules, but a lot of them say that so long as you have the floor, so long as you are the one speaking in Congress, nobody can interrupt you. Okay? That's during the discussion part. And you have a certain amount of time usually in certain cases. But back then, there was no time limit. So you could literally get up and talk and talk and talk for hours. And then you would talk until all the Republicans went home. And then you would call all the Democrats in and y'all would vote on the bill. Okay, that's a filibuster. It's a dirty political trick. It still happens. The master of the filibuster was Huey P. Long. Okay, when he was a senator for Louisiana, he actually filibustered for 24 hours straight. He stood on the floor of the Senate and he talked about his gumbo recipe. I mean, it doesn't say you have to talk about the bill, okay? He talked about the gumbo recipe. At a certain point, he actually pulled out the Bible and just started reading it from the beginning, okay? And the trick worked. They got their way. All right, number 14 is one that you should all be familiar with after this last election. The word is gaffe, okay? An unintentional comment that causes a politician embarrassment, okay? Now, one of the political candidates this last election was a gaffe machine. Okay, this guy had tons of gaffes. And that was even before this election. You can literally watch 2 or 3 hours worth of Joe Biden gaffes, okay, of weird, crazy things he said. Now, Trump has some gaffes too, but not like Biden, okay. But anyway, in this chapter, a political gaffe is going to cause somebody to lose the presidency. So we're going to give you that story later. All right, 15 is the easiest definition. The word affluent. Most people don't know it anymore. It's not a very common word anymore, but it's on the LEAP a lot. Okay, it's in a lot of LEAP questions. Nobody on the LEAP is going to say, what's affluent mean? No, they're just going to use the word in a question, and if you don't know what the heck it means, you're going to be lost. The word affluent means rich or wealthy, okay? So if you got a rich person, you can say they're an affluent person. If you're in the nice part of town, this is the affluent side of town, okay? All right, 16, your last definition is reform, okay? Notice, it is, if you break the word down, reform, okay? You're reforming something, you're changing it. Okay, to make changes to something in order to improve it. Hopefully improve it. All right, that's all your definitions.